You know, I think there's one thing that we learn from this particular picture. You know the one I'm talking about, chums, this one with Prince Harry, when he was caught off guard at home and, as I pointed out, not even aware that he was being filmed, even though this was a pre-set-up, as it were, for his wife Meghan Markle to show just how ordinary, how together, how in love, how, well, everything is rosy in the garden. The thing is, you can't force somebody to act that, can you? And there really was the big problem. I'm surprised, in fact, that Meghan Markle allowed this particular video to go out. But how many takes did it actually take to get to that particular point? You get the picture. Behind the scenes, though, as I've often said, it's a lot darker than you really actually think. Simply because what starts off as being very good is very difficult for Prince Harry. It's not a life that he banked on. He thought by this point in the marriage that, in fact, he and Meghan will be doing a lot of charitable work and stepping away from the limelight. According to a source, Harry felt that Meghan really would have sort of got this out of her head now, you know, the sort of need to be famous, the entrepreneur, the sort of person. And while for a while he scooped that story of, I fully support my wife, she's terrific, we saw the very first signs earlier this year when, of course, he popped up for a very tiny cameo inside Meghan's launch of With Love. Yeah, that's right, which is coming back for its holiday special, just around the time, of course, of Catherine's Princess of Wales' carol service at the prestigious Westminster Abbey, along with some stellar star guests. Now, I'm not pitching either lady against each other, but the bottom line is, what you have to think about, if you are going to take somebody on, look at the previous product and think, could I accelerate that, or should I do something completely different? According to those that have seen a very few snippets of this brand new holiday special, well, apparently it's not exactly rising to the occasion, and you can understand exactly why, and this is the big catch really, why Netflix decided finally to step away. Suddenly basically saying, we're kind of done with what you've got to offer. Meghan can dress it up any way she wants, but that's the real truth. But back to Prince Harry's dilemma. Well, it's been a busy week. And consequently, that particular shot let the world know, in fact, and no doubt Harry, when he saw it back, just how bored and really, well, what purpose in life has he now got? But behind the scenes, if it's possible, chums, things do start to get a little bit worse. As ever, let me explain. Hi, welcome to this week's By Royal Appointment. We're live, of course, or, you know, recorded live, in the very heart of London's Leicester Square. And this is an amazing place, as you can imagine. But as everything around this time of year, it gets taken over. So suddenly now we've got a skating rink over here, as you can see. It's a big money maker, all of this sort of stuff. And of course, people love to skate in a very historical place. What's interesting, though, is there are so many skating rings now, aren't there, in London? So you do kind of wonder, do they all make a profit? And actually, can you afford to go? More importantly, can you do it? Are you like Sonny Hengy? Yes, can you do it? Absolutely. It's always good to know, though, isn't it? But as ever, thank you for joining me for yet another episode of By Royal Appointment. It's always lovely to have your company. And if you can, as ever, chums, do please comment respectfully, like and share, because of course it's your show. It's the sort of longer version of what I like to tell you about what we found out and what's actually happening this week. I tell you, there's some crackers coming up, including the fact that Meghan Markle, well, once again, let slip through her very fingers an opportunity that a lot of people really would have been absolutely thrilled for. And as I said at the start of this particular video, what we're now looking at really is the shine, the glue has gone off that particular relationship. I tell you what happened though after that, which truly infuriated Meghan Markle. Well, we all know, don't we, that Meghan likes to be the centre of attention. I mean, you know, she's an actress, it's allowed, I get it, right, you know? And all the pictures, very really from the off, if you remember, when Meghan sat down with Harry for that very arty black and white engagement picture, remember, he had to look adoringly. It was always the focus had to be on her, and as she pointed out on numerous occasions, heart attack beauty, you know, that sort of thing. Even, of course, that famous now Times magazine cover, which was a farce in itself and truly made Prince Harry look ridiculous. And as many people said, like a hairdresser going through the tresses saying, "Is everything all right, madam? Would you like another few snippets off?" It wasn't exactly the result some might suggest that Meghan was looking for. But this particular picture, well, apparently, according to an inside source, Kris Jenner was thrilled, in fact, to, well, get out in the public domain. And this caused ructions behind the scenes at home from, as ever, staff members. You see, the problem is, if you look at this picture, not only is Harry about 2 or 4, 5, 10 drinks in, but clearly he's kind of had enough. And what he's really doing is sort of lapsing away into some kind of semi-alcoholic coma, as it were, thinking, how much longer do we have to stay here? Because I've been told that Harry now really is sick and tired of the social scene. And you can't blame him, right? But again, here's where this gets interesting, because if you look at the bigger picture, what you've got is Prince Harry looking in a very sort of ungentlemanly way. I'm being kind. And when you think about it, Kris Jenner, as she's now famously now knows, everybody knows, should I say, is now reached the ripe old age of 70. Again, nothing wrong with that. She looks terrific. And as I've often said, bits of Kris Jenner still remain 70 years old. But she's now famous for one of the best facelifts, apparently, in the world. But Harry is looking at this particular lady with too much gusto, according to the staff member. You see, Meghan Markle didn't like this and didn't see this particular picture until it had gone out, right? I mean, this is the problem. All of these things, and I told you in a previous video about exactly how allegedly Meghan and Harry didn't agree to sign away their pictures. They're guests at a party. It's ridiculous. You can do what you want. You are micro-celebrities. You're not royalty. And even Catherine and William and His Majesty the King and Queen Camilla don't have that final say. Yes, they have their own official photographer, but I'm sure Camilla's got lots of pictures. I know that she's mentioned that she wishes somebody didn't take from that side or that angle, that there's nothing you can do. You are a guest, and that's the problem. The problem with this is, of course, that Harry is looking at another woman, a far older woman than Meghan's alleged 44 years, and bottom line is, he's looking at her in a very ungallant way. This now has gone around the world with many people commenting on it, and of course nobody commenting on how terrific Meghan looked, how stylish she looked. And if you remember, the push that she really wanted to get from that particular outing, and she was more than happy with this picture, was the picture her standing alongside the former tennis ace Serena Williams. No complaints about that. And what's interesting also is Serena Williams has not come out and openly defended Meghan or Harry about the backlash that has gone on with those particular now worldwide pictures. You see what I mean? You know, they just don't want to get involved. As I said, they are more trouble now than they're worth. But this particular picture, a little bit like the door knocking picture that Prince Harry famously did earlier this year when he was looking for ex-friends, well, this is truly going to haunt him. And the bigger problem now for Meghan, time and time again, she's going to be unable to stop this sort of thing. Before, she had a lot more control. Harry is now going rogue. It's a little bit like this particular story about them wanting to now go to the other side of the world. As ever, let me explain. Just a quick recap also on what's happening in the world of the Duke and Duchess of York. Well, many people are now saying, in fact, that, well, you know, whether you like it or not, the former royal known as Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, suddenly feels a little bit freer. Yes, there's the back and forth things about he may be called to do this, but nobody could force him to do this unless there's an official warrant out for his arrest, and nothing has come forward yet. And again, this is where the story, you know, and you can understand why the royals, and in particular Prince William, really wanted to draw a line under this, because wherever he turns up, that story is now going to keep coming back, right? Now, what about his wife, Sarah Ferguson? Well, the thing with Fergie is she's affectionately known. She likes money, she likes to live well, and normally has a scheme or two going, right? But the problem that you've got now is that without the title, it's amazing exactly how people back away. And that really is all about, you know, the way it works, right? The problem that you've got if you are Sarah Ferguson is, what can you now sell? Now, many people might suggest, of course, that she's got a very good sort of backstory. She could talk about her early times with the late and beautiful Princess Diana. And not only that, of course, times in with the Queen and all that sort of stuff. Now, this is apparently what's been put together by some people who believe that Sarah could absolutely do well as a public speaker. I kid you not. And they're also looking at potential opportunities on the high seas. You know, those celebrity cruises where you get paid a lot of money, you turn up and you talk about your life to date, possibly sell some product. You might say, would Sarah want to do this? I would say Sarah would want to do it definitely, simply because she wants an opportunity to be able to tell her side of the story. The risk factor, of course, being on a big ship, a celebrity cruise liner, is then you are trapped with the guests. And if the guests turn nasty, it's not as easy to get away. You get the picture. On top of all of that, she's kept her head down simply because people are saying, well, where does she go from here, etc. Here's a bit of a revelation that you don't know. ITV a couple of weeks ago said we don't want to now, Loose Women, This Morning, Good Morning Britain, that sort of stuff. Well, guess what? ITV documentaries are very keen to see if Sarah does want to sit down in the fullness of time to tell her version of events and what it's like now, just simply becoming the new person. Never rule out the way television works. It's all very well they're getting headlines saying we're not going to book her on This Morning or Loose Women. Let me tell you, she didn't have a contract with ITV. There was no reason for her to be booked on that. But of course, they're sniffing ratings. Somebody wants to sit down with Sarah. And somebody, well, whoever's got the deep pockets, and this could be something like Amazon or somewhere like that, if she's willing to tell her version of events, even a sanitized version, people will know, and the people at television know, that they will tune in to watch her. That's exactly how television works. Sarah is definitely down, but I would say she's not totally out. As for her husband, he doesn't have too many options. He could possibly do some charitable work if that's what he wants to do. But on the other side of the coin, he's definitely not writing a book and doesn't plan to embarrass the royal family any further, according to an excellent source. Oh, and on top of all of that, I've been told that Princess Eugenie and Princess Beatrice will be offered an opportunity to attend Catherine's carols at Christmas at Westminster Abbey. So you see, it's not all bad news. Now the problem that they've got is, if they don't attend, it looks very negative, and if they do attend, they become the story, don't they? They're turning up on their own with no parents, no backup, no Sarah, etc. It's very difficult if you're Catherine, the Princess of Wales, because clearly you want to show your caring, sharing side, but on the other side of the coin, they become the big story. It's a little bit like this particular picture. Remember this when Catherine spectacularly climbed down the stairs of that aircraft in those towering heels, ladies, do you remember? Didn't you? Yes, I thought, can she make it? I mean, she's a very agile girl, but you know what I'm saying, it's a tough call. This particular picture of that doting airman looking at Catherine adoringly is the one thing apparently that very much annoys Meghan Markle. It was an off-the-cuff picture, but clearly that particular gentleman, as many people are, were transfixed by her beauty, enamoured by her style, and no doubt in awe of the fact that she could walk backwards in those big heels. And that was the reason why Meghan had that picture in the cockpit flying back from one of those events. It didn't really cut the same mustard, and she was annoyed, according to ex-staff members, that this didn't really break through the way that particular picture did. The problem is, when you try and stage something, people can see through it. It's a bit like this particular situation that's now developing with the Sussexes. In all the drama that's gone on this week with Meghan Markle attending alongside Prince Harry that big spectacular party for Kris Jenner, a lot of people miss this particular story, and it's very important because in effect it's quite terrifying for the British monarchy, because this is clearly a path that they now intend to go down. If you remember when Prince Harry came back to London in September time to see his father for the very first time after many months, he wasn't particularly happy with the way that meeting went. It didn't last as long as he thought. He wasn't allowed to be alone with his father, and consequently Harry didn't really get whatever he came to get. Many suggested that what he really was looking for was a foot back into, not exactly full-time royal life, but how could he become useful? The problem was, of course, his elder brother, Prince William, really just doesn't want anything to do with anything. He feels the monarchy can survive perfectly without the hindrance, or indeed the help, whichever way you want to call it, of Prince Harry. He had his chance and he shot it. He decided to roll out and do something completely different. But as we're seeing time and time again, the only time that Harry comes alive, really, is when he goes on these sort of fake royal events, whether it be like the Well Child Awards or something he sets up when he came over here. He loves doing that meeting and greeting. I think he genuinely does like it. The problem is he married someone who doesn't like it, and basically he married his own paparazzi, right? That's the deal, and this is now what he's stuck with. But the bigger picture happened when this particular story just very casually came out. It's a letter that Harry and Meghan had written to someone that they'd met recently, and they were praising her, etc. But the final line on this letter said everything about the plans on what they want to do for the future. You see, basically Harry and Meghan are still looking for places that they could go to visit, well, some people might say, on someone else's dime. We saw that, didn't we, with the trip to Colombia. And then when Meghan decided she was 43% Nigerian, they went along to Nigeria. It's never mentioned, you know, not even any sort of cultural references. Nothing like big dates, of course, in the historical calendar. Not on Meghan's Instagram site, because there's one thing very sure, it has to be all about Meghan. But why is this a problem then for the British monarchy? Well, obviously, Australia, the Commonwealth, His Majesty the King, Prince William, Catherine, and there are rumours, of course, that William and Catherine will be making another visit to Australia, possibly in 2026. You see, the bigger issues now that they've got to do, and this is where Harry tried to, well, gain momentum, if you think about it, with his very much sort of, here's my diary, if you want to look at it, perhaps we can work around it so we don't clash. Well, it hasn't really worked. That idea, which he put out in the public domain, after one of his advisors had suggested this might be a good idea to placate people, well, it didn't work. The problem that you've got now is, what do you do if Harry and Meghan do decide to do it? You see, the problem with that is, Australia, in my opinion, the government at least wouldn't want to get involved and wouldn't want to be hurtful to His Majesty the King, or indeed Queen Camilla and Catherine, the Prince and Princess of Wales. Obviously, I just don't see that happening. But of course, if a charity were to come on board and perhaps fund that entire trip, then that gives them the opportunity to go out there legitimately under the guise of working for a charity. Do not underestimate exactly the way that these people maneuver and play. They are celebrities now. This is exactly what celebrities do. They're always looking for the next angle, the next deal. What can they either market, normally themselves? And basically Harry likes that life. He's looking for that opportunity. This year started off incredibly badly for him, all thanks to the centre Barley, Dr. Sophie Chanduka. None of that has gone away. What Harry was hoping for was to be able to turn it around with some charitable endeavours. Hence the reason we got a very sparkling form when he came back over to London for Well Child and the other events. Blew it again though, of course, when he decided to wear the Dodgers baseball hat and went over to Canada and had to sort of make fun of himself and his ball patch just to try and pull it back together. But this is all, of course, under the guise and tutelage of his wife, Meghan Markle. But for now, Harry and Meghan are desperately and definitely looking for new areas, new ventures to conquer, because, well, it's good for their brand, and more importantly, it's a streak of jealousy, isn't it? They want to prove to the world, the rest of the world at least, that in fact, when you think about it, you know, they could still be very useful to the monarchy. And where better to go than somewhere like New Zealand, back to Canada, or indeed Australia? Even though many say that was a disastrous royal tour, in the eyes of Harry and Meghan, it was very successful. It was just the British media that turned it into a negativity. Forgetting, of course, that Meghan famously utilised that tour to tell the world, and our late and brilliant monarch, Queen Elizabeth, that nobody bothered to check in to see how she was. You see how this works now? One of the biggest bombshells recently that came to light just at the point when, of course, the Prince of Wales, Prince William, was over in Brazil doing his very best to make sure all the focus was on the focus, of course, of Earthshot. Meghan Markle announced in her very best Norma Desmond tones that she was returning to acting. Remember, this was an actress who said she was done with it and she really just wanted to hit the ground running as a charitable worker. Didn't really last that long, did it? Because obviously in Meghan's eyes there were certain elements of charity that she enjoyed but not necessarily wanting to get too involved with. You get the picture. So suddenly we found out that Meghan was going back to acting. And, well, she was playing herself, right? And I forgot what it's called, something Closeness of Strangers or something like that. But suddenly, Meghan Markle has now hijacked that particular movie. Things, though, could have been a little bit different earlier on in the year. And this is because, and this is where I find this fascinating, Meghan is signed to one of the biggest agencies in the world, William Morris Endeavour. And to my knowledge, they haven't really got her anything of any substance, even though they have all the stars to play with and twist and turn. You get the picture. It would make perfect sense in many people's eyes for them to pair her up with somebody, but seemingly that hasn't happened yet. Now, Meghan's only real shot at fame has been playing, of course, Rachel Zane in the show Suits. She sort of mentions that as much as she does the soap dish story, right? It's the only thing tangible, real effort work that she's got to show. 7 seasons, she points out. Even though she was going to be written out of the show, never mentions that because she married a prince. You get the picture. But a bigger part could have been on offer, all thanks to this particular clan. That's right, the Kardashians. They've just debuted on Hulu Kim Kardashian and Ryan Murphy's brand new legal series, All's Fair, about a divorcee lawyer who basically strikes up her own company. Now, it's been critically mauled. The bits that I've seen, let me tell you, it's a lot of fun. If they played it a bit more for laughs like Dynasty did, they could have a huge success on their hands. And they have a reasonable cast, including Kim Kardashian herself, making some say her acting debut. On top of all of that, they have Oscar winners like Glenn Close, and not a bad star guest list. According to an excellent source, when this first came around, apparently, and it makes sense if you think about this, Meghan Markle was very keen to get herself interjected into that element of the show. She thought, well, maybe there could even be a part. After all, she played a legal eagle before in Suits. So what went wrong? Well, nothing originally. People were quite warm to the idea. Let's not forget the Kardashians know exactly how valuable great PR is, right? And they thought, well, this is okay. Things started to unravel, though, when Meghan once again got herself in hot water, in something that you may have forgotten about, because it was one of those, I don't know what you call it, the sit-downs, the panels, and where Meghan started waffling on about the soap dish thing again. Unfortunately, yes, the actress and model Brooke Shields pointed this out and did something in a podcast, truly escalated, and Brooke was hounded off social media because she was so frightened of the backlash. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because Brooke Shields pops up in All's Fair as a reoccurring character. Now, at this stage, we're not quite sure if this will get recommissioned, if it will get picked up, or wherever they are with it. But nonetheless, this just goes to show, and this happens time and time again, and I'm not suggesting that Brooke Shields was the reason as to why Meghan didn't get offered the role. But let's be brutally honest. If you're looking at the CV of both of them, you would say, I think Brooke Shields has done far more. Meghan Markle then, if you notice, very quickly, and just ahead of the Hula-inspired All's Fair's launch, announced to the world around about the same time, as I said, of Prince William's Earthshot, that she was returning to acting. So why then did she get an invite to the Kris Jenner party? Well, why not? It's publicity. And this is exactly what the Kardashians do. I mean, what better to be in a room with all these very successful people, knowing when you look back home that your jams aren't selling, people aren't interested in your wine, and now your wick of your candle is being berated around the world. They're very clever at the way they work in Hollywood. I'm not suggesting this is the Kardashians. But again, you see, you would say Meghan Markle had a wonderful opportunity to develop something there, to try and get something going, maybe a return to acting, maybe let people see exactly why they liked her in the first place. But for some explicable reason, that opportunity was very quietly never mentioned again. Now, both sides will say, it was never really in the offing, but we all know differently, right? Have you noticed, with Prince Harry, he's always the one, doesn't matter what it is or what needs doing, but he's the one that's sent out to battle, the sort of thing. And this is where I find this really fascinating in many respects, because you could say, of course, that the former royal known as the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, well, maybe she's a little reticent, a little shy, maybe she doesn't like to get too involved, but we know really that's not the case. What the true story is, according to ex-staff members, is she can't face the word no, the rejection, the big letter that says, no, we're not really interested. It must have been something imprinted from an early stage, though, in her career, because as an actress or an actor, it doesn't matter who you are in the entertainment field, you have to get used to rejection. Trust me, I can, I've got masses of experience on that. And basically what you try and do is think, well, okay, it wasn't for me for the moment or whatever. If it goes a bit deeper, then obviously it can fester, it can resent, but it's pointless. You know, I just don't see the point in it because they are the power and you have to decide which way it's going to go. We saw that really none better than when Prince Harry, on that very famous Disney premiere in the very heart of Leicester Square, where he could have gone along to support army veterans, he decided to go out and be the agent, the publicist, whatever you want to call it, for his wife. You know, shoehorning Bob Iger into, you know, my wife does voiceovers. I mean, he must have known there were microphones going to pick that up. But clearly, he was that under the thumb, he did exactly what Le Marchal said. And again, you know, it defies belief, doesn't it, that you can get to that age and think, you know, maybe we'll meet him for tea, maybe I'll invite him to the palace. No, no, no. There, right now, was what she demanded, according to that source. Again, here's where this gets really interesting and intriguing to me, simply because that particular sort of dichotomy has not stopped at all. And this is because, time and time again, what you're finding really is that what Meghan wants, Meghan gets. When Harry came back over here to the United Kingdom recently, the idea, one of the ideas, and again I have to say allegedly, that he wanted to put forward to His Majesty the King, or indeed the higher echelons of inside the palace courtiers, was a rethink about their presence on the royal family website. And I've told you time and time again, Meghan is not happy with her description. She feels she's achieved far more. Podcaster, award-winning podcaster, award-winning authoress. I mean, you just could go on, right? We can't remember it, but oh yeah, she can. And the idea really was that Harry and Meghan felt that wouldn't this be a real sort of kickback to everybody if, in fact, at the 11th hour, suddenly Meghan's jams, her preserves, whatever you want to call them, did pop up inside, say, one of the royal shops. Online even would suffice to do. And just think about that for the moment. Trust me, this is from an excellent source. And you come away and you go, well, why would you want to do that if you derided the family after that long? But you see, what they like to do is counteract the story, to basically say, look, you know, whatever the public is saying, whatever, say, myself or other reporters are putting out there, this is the true story. Now, as you can imagine, even the disgraced Sarah, Duchess of York, didn't and wasn't allowed to promote her books on the royal website. There's only one person really that can do that, and that is His Majesty the King, or indeed the charitable endeavours of the Princess of Wales. And let's not forget, the Princess of Wales makes brilliant chutney and honey and all of those things. She could equally take advantage of that and donate those profits to many of her charities. But it's a step too far. Meghan didn't necessarily read the room. Now, it never got to that pivotal stage, but this is from, as I say, an excellent source working alongside them. You can only wonder what that must have been like when Harry got back, and it's a little bit like, as I said, the Dick Emery character where he says, oh, Dad, I messed up again. He seemingly can't seal the deal, and each and every time, this is what truly infuriates Le Marchal. She believes that if she was going out there to speak, it would be done. Well, if that was the case, why don't you hop on a plane and try it yourself? But as ever, then she couldn't blame someone, according to sources. As ever, thank you so much for joining me for this week's By Royal Appointment. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you can, please like, comment and share. Tell your chums all about it. And you all know how to hype now, don't you? I know I'm still learning that one, chums. But if you can do it, please do as much as you can. It's lovely to get more and more. And I loved, by the way, all the people that told me where you're from. Yes, I can't believe it. We've got chums around the world. It's absolutely fabulous. Until next time, do take care of yourselves for another royal appointment. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.